Today I'd like to discuss a question that someone sent me. One of my clients sent me about their anxiety attacks. They've been called, for public speaking, and they're not really used to public speaking, although they have done some video. They haven't had that experience of being live and speaking live in front of an audience. And I thought I would just share it with you guys as well, because maybe some of you have a similar issue with anxiety. Now, it doesn't have to be for public speaking. It just might be in some circumstances in your life, you panic, you lose it. Basically, it's like a pistol, a trigger. Someone says something or does something, and it really gets under your skin, and it just triggers something off in you, and you almost don't recognize yourself. Are there circumstances in your life where you just basically get triggered off? Try to think of one of these circumstances, or a person who really does this to you, or you feel that they're doing it to you. When you were 3 months old, or 6 months old, or 3 years old, you were kind of helpless, all right? So you also had a very limited understanding of what's going on. So you may have misinterpreted, not you may have, you definitely have misinterpreted something that happened to you. Now what happens is, you're now an adult, or outwardly your body is that of an adult, but you're still carrying this inner child within, or this inner infant within that experienced something that reminds. Now something's happening in your adult life, and it will trigger something off because it reminds you of something that happened to you when you were 3 months old or 6 months old. Some sort of rejection, some sort of humiliation, what you interpreted then as a little child as humiliating. So maybe it's something that you remember, like it's a face, it's a person who reminds you of someone. You don't remember that. But every time you see this person now as an adult, you will recall that painful experience as a child, and you will immediately snap back into the infant mode, the tantrum mode, the fear, the helplessness, the panic attack that you're having. Same goes for something, as I said, a public speaking that you might have to do. Like in this case, my client has to do a live public speaking. And what's happening is that although they're very well prepared, or they've done their research, they know their stuff, it seems that standing in front of an audience must be triggering something off in them that occurred to them when they were younger, much younger. They must have been humiliated at some point. They must have felt some humiliation in the past, like we all have, right? But it's a question of how much some of us let it stick, okay? Some of us are more resilient, and we can handle that. We could be reminded of something, but we can handle it. Now, some people are not, adept at that, but this can be healed, it can be overcome. The most important thing in my method, there's several ways we handle it in the Alkistis method. One of the main ways that we would handle such a problem is by hypnosis. Simply, straightforward hypnotherapy. You just put the person in a hypnotized state, either me personally or through an MP3. And yes, it can happen through an MP3, it's no big deal. So what you do is you bring the person back to that traumatic event, you bring the person back to the instance that was humiliated, because they may have forgotten it even, they don't remember. You may think it's something that happened in your adolescence, but I assure you it happened a lot before. Something that triggers you off today reminds you, and that's why you're behaving basically like that child, all right? think of a 2-year-old baby, a 2-year-old little infant, okay? That's what's coming out. That is what's coming out. If you find yourself way overreacting, like, you know, trembling, panic attacks, and I'm not saying when someone's coming at you with a knife, right? There, you know, it's justified. It's just that what happens is we go off into all kinds of over-exaggerated reactions for things that objectively are handleable. In the meditation, in the guided meditation, or in the hypnosis, you revisit it with the eyes of an adult. So you don't relive it. You are basically revisiting your past as an adult, being more objective about what happened when you were 3 years old. All right? Maybe they had you stand up in front of your whole family and they insisted you sing a song, and then they all started laughing, right? So you might have forgotten that little incident, but now that you have to speak in front of a big audience, you're panicking. Or you might have felt rejection, or, you know, something happened in your past. And by using the MP3, you can go back and revisit it, but as I said, as an adult. Not being the baby again and going into the crazy mode, you know, the tantrum freaking out mode. No, just being next to the child and, if you like, embracing the child, taking the child in your arms and saying, look, just because these people are laughing at you right now, it's okay, look, I'm all grown up. I could protect you now. First of all, they weren't making fun of you. They were just amused. They were amused, and their laughter was not making fun of you. You interpreted it as making fun. So you talk to the child as you would a 2-year-old, as you would a 3-year-old. You would take him in your arms, on your lap, and you would speak to him, try to reason with the child. All this in a meditation, all this is happening in hypnosis, right? You really, once you source it, most of the people who I do this exercise with the MP3, that you're going to find the link below, most of the people that I do this exercise with, they will immediately have an aha moment. They will have an aha moment. Oh my God, now I remember what happened, and it happened like this. And it's such a release, such a relief. Now, I'm not saying that little child won't pop up once you're in front of the crowd again, or in front of that challenging situation. But it's just this time, you know what, you don't have to react. You don't have to just flip the switch. You could say, you know what, I see that this little child is freaking out, but I don't have to freak out just because my little inner child is freaking out. And you will hold that child in your embrace. And it does take a little training. You know, I'm not one of those people who are like, oh, miracle method. No, this thing needs some training. You need to prepare for that event. You need to be prepared. And I find that the self-hypnosis MP3s are really an ideal way of, you know, being prepared, preparing yourself for having this communication with your inner child, to really being the guardian of your own emotional circumstances. Help yourself to outgrow your automatic responses. I want you to take my word for it, take the neuroscientist's word for it. Your brain is retrainable. Our brain is retrainable. It's something called neurogenesis, okay? That means that your brain can constantly form new neural connections, okay? Because when you think about it, in the brain there's neural connections which have been formed based on your habitual way of thinking. So this is your automatic responses. Now if you train, just like a muscle, right? If you train new thoughts, new behaviors, new neural connections, your brain will be rewired, recabled in a new way, all right? And the old branches will simply fade away, they will weaken, because the less you use those muscles, and the more you start using the new muscles, you will build a new brain. We are sculpting our brain, we are creating our brain, and we are capable really recreating the way we're thinking and the way we're programmed. And no, this is not, science fiction. This has to do with work. In the Alkistis method, we call it the askesis, okay, from the Greek word askesis, which means exercises, practical exercises. And that's from the word ascetic. You might know the word ascetic. Ascetic is like the monk or the person who practices. Because, as I say, in the Alkistis method, we are practicing. We are practitioners of self-awareness, of self-guardianship, self-leadership, as I like to say. In the Take Charge book, I have a copy here, it's Take Charge book, you will see the 6 exercises. Now, one of the exercises is about managing your mind, managing your thoughts and your emotion, mastering your thoughts and your emotions. So, it's all in here and in the online course. And, you should really have a look at that if you want to take your inner work seriously. Go ahead and also click on the link below for the free self-hypnosis MP4 that you can begin to handle anxiety, the fear of rejection, and build your self-confidence. All right, so thank you so much for listening, and I really look forward to more of your questions here on Alkistis TV. From Athens, Greece, I am Alkistis, your confidence and self-leadership coach. Take charge.